Okay, I'm back for another one. This time it's a bit of a weird one because it's not really my vehicle we're working on anymore. Well, I guess it is kind of. So do you remember that Squarebody I bought? Well, turns out Taco wanted it more than I do. In fact, he helped me out about another truck and I need to get rid of some things. I don't have room for all this stuff. So the deal was he'll buy it, but I need to complete some of the projects I was going to do on it. And here, we'll start with the first one, which is this seat. I don't know if you remember, we reupholstered this seat. Yeah, I'll put a link to that in the description or something. I think that's what YouTubers do. And I want to get rid of these seats. You know, they're in nice shape and everything. And different strokes for different folks. Some guys like the buckets in a half-ton regular cab. Some guys don't. He doesn't. To be honest, I don't either. There, I said it. I don't care. It's not for everybody, and it's not for me. So I was doing the bench for myself, and as it turns out, we're going to be doing it actually for him. So I'm just going to unbolt these buckets and throw the bench in, and then we're also going to remove this dash. I have a new dashboard. It's in pretty good shape. But this dash, because the rest of the truck is so perfect, I just thought that this dash should also be perfect. So I purchased a new one in the factory gray. And then these gauges. I don't know if you remember those things. Not a fan. Triple gauges have their place in the world for sure. It doesn't make a lot of sense when you have actual gauges, factory gauges. You know, to me, you should just make that work. That's just me. Taco is a bit higher class than me yet, and he actually wants Dakota Digital Gauges. So we'll toss those in too. Why not? So anyway, I'll get started and we'll yank these seats out. Okay, no real big secret here. 4 bolts on each seat and they pop right out. So let me get these ones out, then we'll get the bench in. So when you're doing these, for your first few, you definitely don't want to tighten them all the way down. Just kind of snug her up so you can still have a little bit of movement. That's why those holes are a little bit oversized. Let me throw one in the back here. Probably got... Okay, 8 bolts out, 4 bolts in. Not rocket science. This is way better. I mean, just look at it. The seat belt, on the other hand, not better. Change your seat belts, Taco. Maybe we'll get started on this dash next. Okay, let's take a look if he's hiding any sins back here. Looks like there's a little water damage here, a little bit of rust. Nothing major though. All looks pretty good. You can see where these clips go. I'm going to show you what clips I'm talking about when we go back and take a look at the dash itself. So I thought I seen, no, I guess I didn't. Okay, there's that, there's that, there's that. Clean that up back there. But overall, she's pretty good. Now I do have to do some Dakota Digital dashes in here, so, or Dakota Digital dash. So yeah, I'm gonna leave that dash pad off till I get that done, just because I think it'll be nice to have that extra little bit of room. It won't be much, but you know, when you have big gorilla hands like this, every little bit helps. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave this like this for now. Maybe I'll just screw those up there just so I'm not banging my head on them or breaking them. That's going to do it for now. Okay, those clips I was talking about, this is them here. That's the clips. So these guys, they kind of go in a bit of a funky way too. I don't know if I remember exactly how. I think they kind of turn and do kind of a funky thing. I'll figure it out and I'll show you when I install them. Okay, so we got the dash bezel out and the gauges out. The gauges are just held on by 4 screws here, or actually 3. 1, 2, 3. And then I ended up dropping the column just to make it easier to get it out. There you can see the dash is all cut out for the radio. I don't like that, but it is what it is. That's the way they used to do it. And we got that triple gauge laying down there. I got all that cut out. And yeah, I think we're ready to start thinking about putting it in Dakota Digital Gauges. Seats in, looks great. One thing at a time, I guess. Okay, let's get after this. Okay, so under here, this is where your speedometer cable would hook up. It just kind of threads on there, and they give you this adapter piece, and it's just super straightforward. It just threads on, and once you're threaded on, you just plug this bad boy in, and that's done. This requires virtually no tools other than to get channel locks or pliers just to get the other one off, and then same thing, tighten this up till it's, you know, hand tight, and then give her another quarter turn or what have you. It's not a lot. This is super easy. Anyone can do this. And then this wiring just goes up to the control box. Find a couple spots to tie it off, so keep it off the exhaust because you don't want it melting. And that's about it. This is your where your factory temp sensor goes, on the driver's side of the engine on the head. So it just unthreads and the new one threads on, and you take that wire and run it up to the control box under the dash. And then back there, you can see that guy under the distributor to the right there. So that's where your oil sender unit is. Oil sending unit, the factory one. You can just take it out, put this one in, and same thing with that wire. Run it up and through the firewall, and we'll get her into the cab. Okay, so at this point, you just go online, you find yourself a schematic of your wiring for your particular vehicle, and like I needed an extra ground, so I just ran an extra ground off this cluster down here, ran it up here, marked it my ground. For everything else, I went off my wiring to the instrument panel, and I found my ground, and I found my high beam indicator. I found my dash lights, where they actually go on to here, where it's marked dim. Another ground, my left and my right turn signals, and then what do we got here? And then that's my fuel gauge, and that's what I need off of here. And then everything else I'll be able to just kind of close off. I don't need this stuff. And then this stuff here I'm gonna cut down, and I will connect on here with the little screwdriver. I'm just gonna strip her back a bit, push her in, tighten it down. We'll go through that afterwards too. I decided I'm gonna mount mine right in here somewhere, behind the dash. Looks like there's a bit of a leak at some point, probably from a leaky windshield gasket, and got a little bit of rust on the firewall here. Just tuck that back up there and pretend we've never seen it. Just like that. That's what the new dash is for. So we'll get that mounted over there. I'll get all these wires plugged into it. And then so what I did is I left the wires long enough here, so if someone down the road decides they want to undo this and just put a regular cluster back in, they could. Simply by taking those wires, putting them back on here, and installing the gauge cluster. Here's our wiring that came through. I'll cut this so it's the same length as those, so we don't have a big mess hidden up behind here. These here, same length as those. tuck it all back there. Very nice and neat. And then we got a couple of hot wires to come up. So we'll need a hot all the time, key on, and I think that's it, just the two. And I'll make sure those are fused as well, just for safety. We don't want this thing burning down on taco. All right. Okay, so we're just putting all these connections in here. CJ will kind of tell you what he's done so far.
All right, we've got the fuel input, we've got the dim and the high beams, and I've just hooked up the Dakota Digital speed input, temperature input, and pressure input, except I accidentally cut the drain too short, so we're going to have to extend that to hook it back up into the box. Not a big deal, I hope. And next, after that, I'm going to hook the ignition and the constant 12 volts on the ground. And to do that, we'll be using some fuse extenders, so we can just hook it into the main panel.
We're also going to be using these guys here.
Oh yeah.
So these are for the turn signals. If you wanted to keep, you know, the factory look of where the turn signals are. If you wanted the ones in the gauge cluster, like in the speedometer part, you would use those guys there. In our case, it would be blue and light blue. But we don't want, what we don't want is multiple turn signals in the gauge cluster and on the dash. So we're just going to use these guys here, and we'll put them where the factory had them. And then we're pretty much going to be wrapping her up here pretty quick. Yeah. That white wire CJ has in his hand is actually for the tack. We'll get that one wired up. Actually, you want to throw that one in, CJ? We can show them.
Oh yeah, just these are pretty nicely done. So, tack input. Just loosen that off a bit.
You see how straightforward it is. Literally, we took that wire, we ran it to the HEI, to the part labeled tack, and then in here, straight to where it says tack input.
You just screw it down. No special connectors, no crimpers, just screwdriver and strippers.
That one's done. So, I don't know, what is we got, a dozen wires in total? It really isn't too bad.
Not bad at all.
Okay, we'll let CJ get back at it, and we'll pop back in once we get to the power wires. So we're just gonna plug her in for the first time here.
Ooh. That's one.
That's the right, isn't it?
That's late. Oh yeah, you are correct. Thank you. I was seeing if you were paying attention. Don't worry. I'm a professional.
Like a piano string. Okay. And there's our left.
And here is the main connector. There we go. We are plugged in.
Okay. I'll give you the key here. I should go hook up the battery. Smoke test. Any smoke?
Not yet.
Okay. Alright, so we still got a film over the gauges and everything. Yeah. We'll take that off at the last moment. Okay, go ahead. Turn
key on. Turn signals work. Okay. Ooh.
Pretty cool. Alright, so battery currently says, what do we got there?
11.4.
Okay.
1.5 roughly.
And the fuel gauge says empty. We'll have to get into the calibration of that after.
It says notice, must be calibrated.
Okay. Alright, let's go ahead and fire it up. Let's see what happens here. We're gonna have to give her some fuel. She hasn't been started today.
Okay, ready?
Yep. Okay, so oil pressure is way up. That's working. What's that voltmeter?
Voltmeter's reading about 15. 14.8 is typically your charging voltage.
All right, so we'll have to figure out the fuel.
Figure out the fuel. Oil pressure's good.
Temp looks about right. Looks like we're doing good.
Okay.
All right.
There we go.
Okay, so we had a little hiccup with the fuel sender there. our schematic showed a tan wire, and it shows a tan wire for a lot of years, but on this particular truck, as you can see, it's actually that pink wire up top there. So a little bit of diagnosing, but we got it. Yeah, and that's where she sits in there, all nicely tucked away. Now we're just going to stow our wire here and install this. We'll show you what she looks like. Okay, so underneath the dash, you can see these clips here. So those clips actually slide in up top here, just like that. And I noticed over here, there was a bit of a rattle before, so we got some adhesive up here to help with that. And also in that back corner, I'm missing a clip, so I put some adhesive up there too. So I'm probably not gonna be able to record this and show it, but basically those clips just kind of sit in here, and this will push in. In my experience, this dash has to kind of curl up a little bit before it can get past these corners. So I'll do that. We'll get her in place, and then I'll come back and show you how we do the rest of the installation. Okay, so here's our new dash installed. Looks pretty good. We did have to put a couple dabs of glue up in here and up in here because I don't want any rattles in there. We've got our screws back in here, all up and around in here. The one issue we had, which I had heard about, was this guy here doesn't quite want to cooperate. I think I would, if I were keeping the truck, I would get some glue up in here and then maybe tape it over until it dried. But this one's going to taco. Our new Dakota Digital Gauges are in. I still need to set the speedometer, but I can give you a look at it anyway. That's kind of cool. The sweep it does, and there we go. So you can see our tach's working good. Speedometer needs to be calibrated. I got to take it for a drive, a 1 mile drive. Over here, our 14.78, somewhere in there, it's good. Oil pressure is great. Our temp sensor is working great, and down here is our fuel, which is about right. I had just less than 3/4 of a tank. And then if I slide it over here, it's got dual tanks. If I slide it over to the left hand, you can see she comes up, but man, she comes up awful slow. It does come up all the way, but she takes her time. Not that it's really an issue, but it is a full tank. Let me show you. I'm just going to turn this off and then back on again, and look at that, she goes right to full. So anyway, there we go. You can change these out to whatever you want. This is going to be a speedo down here. I don't know why you need a speedo in speedo, but Taco can kind of take it from there and figure out what he wants to have in these displays, if anything. And yeah, that's going to do it. This guy is ready for the new owner on the inside. We got the new seat installed. It looks great. The new dash is in. It looks fantastic. I still got a couple of pieces of trim to put in here, but other than that, I think we're done. All right, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for hanging out. If you haven't subscribed yet, please think about doing so. I got some special things coming up with that guy back there, 67 C10. I got an 84 C10, and we got this, yeah, it's 56 Chevy in the garage there too. That one's still an ongoing project as well. We got lots coming up. All right, thanks for hanging out. Appreciate it.